first thing for media agencies and anyone really working on the media side is take more ownership of the communication. The radio industry and media industries have been guilty maybe of just being fixated by airtime and space and making that the currency when really the currency is communication, and being more involved in what's actually being broadcast, you know, the actual message, and having an understanding of what makes great communication. I think that's the first step. Two most important questions on the brief that we use are what's the customer's problem and how do you as a brand or service solve that problem. And then once you have those answers, then the creative is going to be formed out of what those benefits are that you provide as a business. And often these businesses are answering these questions for the first time. They're great at answering questions like what do you want to advertise and who do you want to target, because they'll talk about everything and you get reams of information. I guess the most important rule for the creatives, specifically for writing for radio, is don't start writing until you've had an idea. And I know that sounds really super obvious, because in any other medium, you don't start drawing until you know what your picture's going to be. What works best in all media, and particularly radio, is that you need a theme and something that the listener can become familiar with and then recognize the brand from that theme. A big idea is what's needed. And then what happens is the brand comes through, and then the listeners recognize it, and you've got an objective and a benefit that's wrapped up into an idea, rather than just a shopping list of product features. As a sales exec, you've also got the responsibility to allow for the best ideas to come through. As soon as you accept a client request to include various things in the ad, or allow the client to voice the ad, you've completely diminished the role of the creative, and their expertise is no longer worth anything. There are so many more alternatives and more compelling creative ideas that you can give to the client beyond them just being the voice or the idea of their brand. So yeah, resist at all costs. One of the most useful phrases that we have at Eardrum is the phrase relevant cleverness. There has to be that balance of relevance, which is the stuff in the brief, and cleverness, which is the reason listeners choose to listen to the ad in the first place. If the balance is out of whack, then you either get a really boring ad, which is full of stuff from the brief that no one's going to listen to, or you get a really entertaining ad that has nothing to do with the product or the service. We'll write ads that we think are hilarious and they're going to cut through and be brilliant, the listener's going to love it. But then we'll look at the brief and go, actually, this is really clever, but it's not relevant enough. There's not enough of the client in there. Equally, we'll write ads that we think are going to sail through approval. Everything in the brief is in the ad, and then someone will say, yeah, it's relevant, but is it clever? I.e., is anyone going to listen to this and notice it? If your ad isn't working, then it could be just about adjusting the balance of those two, that criteria.